Hey everybody, welcome to Tech Uploaded. I'm Chris, and today you can clearly see it's cooling upgrade day. So I've been getting a lot of questions about the cooling in the H440, different variations of cooling options that you have, what things actually fit in this case. Will the H105 actually do push-pull? Well, yes, it will. And I decided I'm going to go ahead and set my system up in a push-pull configuration with that radiator mounted on the front to show you how it's done. In addition to that, I've got 4 AF140 fans from Corsair. Then I've got 3 splitters, so I can start utilizing the onboard headers on the motherboard to control the fans instead of relying on that fan hub in the back that runs at full speed. And then on top of that, I also have the existing SP120 fans that were originally mounted with the H105 that I switched out for the Noctua fans that I'm using in a pull configuration right now. And to cap it all off, I'm going to go ahead and throw in a white LED strip from BitFenix, 30 centimeters. I'm going to run it along the top more than likely so I can get some white lighting in there. And the LEDs on these AF140 fans are also white. So maybe a little bit of overkill on the white lighting, but I guess we'll find out when I'm done. I have a feeling you're not going to see the LEDs on a lot of these fans the way I'm going to set this up though. You'll definitely see the one in the back, and you probably will see the ones in the top, depending on how you're looking at the system. So essentially, you're getting a lot of different things all in one here. I'm going to be doing quite a few changes to the system, as well as addressing some questions I've also had about that fan hub in the back, and if you can remove it or not. So let's get started. All right, the first thing I'm going to do is take off the top piece and the front panel so I can get to everything in the case. And then I'm going to need to actually relocate my 2 hard drives, the SSD and the standard, and move them up to these 2 mounts more than likely because I'm going to need this space clear. So I'll have to take these 3 out. That is the one thing that you have to do. That's the concession you have to make when you're going to relocate your mount from the top to the front to do a push-pull. I'm also going to be relocating some fans here so I can put the SP120s, and then actually I'll put the SP120s here and the Noctuas here to do the pull because the Noctuas are square and they'll be able to pull air more efficiently. They don't have that gap like these fans do because they're round. Then relocate this fan, and by relocate I mean remove, and replace it with the LED fan, and then put 2 LED fans up here and an LED fan here because those will all be 140 millimeter, which this one already is, but I just think the LED will look cooler. So there you go, the H105 from Corsair, mounted on the front of the H440 NZXT case in push-pull. You've got 2 fans back here up against the front of the case, and then of course the 2 fans back here. So you've got your pull with the Noctua fans, and then I'm using 2 of the SP120s from Corsair in the front to push. So I'll go ahead and turn this around so you can see that. There are the 2 SP120 fans. They are mounted to the front of the case, and then actually using a long screw, it's running through and hooking into the radiator. Now, one thing to note, you won't have enough screws to do this out of the box with the H105. What you'll need to do is buy some of these, and they are 32 by 1 1/4 inch screws. $1.05 for a pack of 10. And these are the exact same size as the ones that come included with the H105. So just pick up one of those, and then you've got the 8 screws that you need to be able to run a fan through to the radiator on both sides. Easy peasy. All right, so here's the cable management mess that I have now, and it is a rat's nest of cables with all of these fans. So what I've done is I've got 2 SP120s in the front. I had to leave the 120 millimeter NZXT fan that came with the case because 140 millimeter would not fit with the radiator mounted in the case. Then I've got 2 up here, you can't really see my hand that way, of the 140 millimeter Corsair AF140 LED, white LED fans up at the top, and those are sucking air out. And then I've also got, which I'll turn this around so you can see it, another AF140 on the back of the case, also drawing air out. So what I've created here is a system with the radiator pulling air in from the outside in a push-pull, so it's really going to be getting a lot of force, blowing air into the case. You also have this fan up here blowing air in over the hard drive. The SSD I'm not worried about, but it'll be nice to cool off the 7200 RPM hard drive. So that's all coming in the front. And then you've got these exhaust fans in the back just taking everything right back out of the case, which is good because the graphics card's sitting right here, so it's going to keep that airflow moving in the direction that you want. Now, obviously, there are a lot of cables now because there are so many fans. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 fans now mounted in this case, so that is a lot of cabling to have to deal with. So be good with your cable management. Tie everything up as much as you possibly can. It's going to make getting the back of the case on easier, and it's also going to make it so that you don't have to worry about pinching a cable when you're putting the case back on as well. Okay, I had a question about this. This is the hub that all the fans are plugged into by default out of the factory. So what you can do is, yes, you can remove this. There is one cable that's running up to the little LED board up here. And that cable is what's supplying power to this board in order to light your LEDs. And it runs a very strange route all around these cables and then eventually finds its way into this little hub, which is getting power from a Molex. So what you can do is just bypass this entire hub and plug directly into a Molex adapter that's a 3-pin to Molex, and then you will have power running to your LED board to power your LEDs. And if you don't want this in your system anymore, you can go ahead and get rid of it. Now I've got one more fan change to make. I have this top fan here running to the hub, and I'm using one of those little step downs. So it steps it down from like 12 to 7 or 12 to 5 volts. I'm actually going to drop that, use the last splitter I have, which is this one right here, and I'm going to run all the way around to where the back fan is plugged into the motherboard header at the top of the case, and that will have every single fan in the case running to the motherboard so I can control it with the fan controller built on board and keep everything nice and quiet. A total departure from how this case was out of the box. And here's a view from the front of the case. So you can see the 2 fans right up here. They are looking pretty nice, actually. There's a lot more real estate up here now that I've relocated the H105. You don't have as much hanging down here. You can see the tubes are now running this direction over to the front mount radiator, which is nice. I've got the white LED fan back here, which also looks nice. And then the motherboard headers that were utilized for all of the fans are chassis fan 3, which again, that one is running this fan and this fan. So the fans across from each other. Then I have chassis fan 2. That is running the 2 top chassis fans. All of these are using a Y adapter. The Y adapter actually came with the Noctua fans, and then I bought one additional. CPU Alt is what's running the motor for the H105. CPU Fan is running the 2 Noctuas on the pole side of the radiator. And then finally, Chassis Fan 1 down at the bottom is running the 2 fans that are doing the pushing. So all of the fans are going to be able to be controlled by the motherboard, which is great. All right, last but not least, the LED strip. So as you can see here, it's 30 centimeters long. It is set up so that you can, got a cat hair on it already. It's set up so that you can actually chain these together if you want to. And what I'm probably going to do is mount it right along the top. Now this does have an adhesive 3M strip on the back, although my experience with these strips has been they do not hold, and I forgot to bring home some double-sided tape, so I'm going to actually do that. This will probably hold for a night maybe. It's kind of humid in here, but the double-sided tape will solve that problem, so I'll stick that on here to make sure it holds, because I've had these fall down before. And then I'm just going to run the Molex adapter that runs to the plug, which is right here, which plugs into the end, down the back of the case, and I do have a spare Molex down at the bottom, so you won't even see it. All right, so the LED strip is in. It's up along the top of the case. We'll see how long that holds. I know I'm going to have to get that double-sided tape. I just know I am. Experience tells me from the past. So there you have it. It is possible to do push-pull in the H440 case. You do have to make a couple of sacrifices, actually 3 of them, and that is 3 of your drive bays. Now this isn't a huge deal because you do have the 2 trays down here for SSDs or 2.5-inch standard mechanical drives as well. The one issue I ran into with my power supply by plugging in down here was I had an angle, a right angle on every plug, even the end plug for the SATA power connection. So the way that the drive was facing in here, I couldn't plug it in. So you may need to get an adapter cable that's more of a straight end plug for the SATA if you're going to use these 2. That's why I'm not. But it's fine because I only have 2 drives that I'm actually utilizing in the system, so I'm able to use them up at the top. Not a big deal. You'll notice the one nice thing about doing this mount, especially with this case, is with the H105 mounted on the front, you don't see it at all now. It's just gone. The only hit you have that's even there are the tubes running over to it, which is great. So now you have a really clean, sleek look within the computer case itself, and it'll be interesting to see what this looks like lit up. So let's go do it. All right, guys, so here it is. This is a push-pull configuration on the H105 and the NZXT H440 case. You can see here on the temperatures, everything's running fairly warm, which is to be expected. However, if you watched my other video where I was comparing the fans in different positions in the case and comparing the SP120s to the Noctua NFF12s, you'll notice that this is a lot cooler. As a matter of fact, if you look at Core 1, we're peaking at 92 degrees right now, then 90, 87, and 78. Now, Core 1 in my 4770K is a troublemaker. This one gets hot. Gets very hot. This is a 4.4 gigahertz overclock, and before this was hitting 99, 100 every time. I've had Prime 95 running for about 20 minutes now, and all of the thermals are still okay. The fans are fairly loud, but not unbearable. It's actually a little bit quieter than it was because I have everything running to those motherboard headers. Now what you want to do, which I'll show in a minute, is go through the setup in the ASUS utility, the AI suite, and let it do the fan configuration for you automatically, and that'll quiet things down even more. But I wanted to take a look at this before I did anything else and just see immediately how things compared to where we were before. You can see this thing's cranked up 4.4, 4.4, again 92, it's hanging pretty steady there with that being the max. And just as a comparison, here's where we were before. So we hit 99, 2 of them posted a log because they overheated, which is interesting because this only hit 95, but temperatures were a lot higher across the board. So scoot that over, you can compare where we were with just the pull configuration with where we are now with push-pull. The case is completely closed because it does make a difference. I'm sure if I took the front cover off, we'd see a huge drop in temperatures because of the airflow restriction. But as you can see here, everything is nice and happy. Nothing's too loud in the case. And all of the thermals, even with Prime 95 pushing this thing really hard, are still within spec for the 4770K. Okay, so here is what you're going to want to do to get your fan set up. Going to want to launch AI Suite 3. There you go. I can never remember how to do that. And then you're going to go to Fan Expert. Now I haven't run Fan Expert before because I didn't have enough fans plugged into the motherboard to warrant doing so. So you're going to want to click Fan Tuning and then hit OK. Now what it's going to do now is it's going to go through and it's going to start turning the fans on and off one by one so that you can pinpoint where each fan is, and then you can label them. It's also going to fine-tune each fan so that your system is running at its optimal performance based on how much load you have coming through. Okay, then after you finish that, what you're going to want to do is go through and you can click on each one of these and it says, well, I don't know what this is. So you click on it and you can label it. Well, how do you find out which one it is? Well, you click this little button here, and what it's going to do is it's going to silence every fan except for that fan. Okay, so now I know that that is the front and back fan. So I'm going to go ahead and just label that back fan. Save. And then you'll go through again. Which fan is this fan? Click on it, identify it. Those are the push fans for the H105. So those would be considered front. So you get the picture here. Just go through and do this for each one of your fans, and then you'll be set. Okay, so here's my idle load, and I do have a screen capture going, but as you can see, it's not really pulling anything on the GPU or CPU or anything, so everything's staying nice and cool. And temperatures are right where they should be, and this is with the fan profile set basically to silent. So hardly any of the fans are really even spinning in the case. Everything's just chill, nice and quiet. You can barely even hear that the computer is on. So that's what you get by using the fan tuning software. And that's what you get by having the push-pull configuration. It's going to kick up the fans on the front when it needs to. Otherwise, it actually leaves the H105 in a configuration where it's only in pull. It's actually not running the fans in the front at all. It kicks on those front fans when a load starts being pulled through the system and the CPU starts to crank up. Then it's going to kick those fans on in the front, and it's going to go from pull to push-pull. So that's really nice. Keeps everything quiet until you really need that extra oomph to cool things down. Alright, so this is what it's come to. I'm sitting on my floor to show you just how bright this computer is. As you can see, it is really, really bright. That white LED strip packed a lot more of a punch than I really expected it to, especially in just a little 30 centimeter strip. So the BitFenix lights are incredibly bright. And then you also have the white LEDs on the fans, which are really coming through strong as well. I actually do like it. I think it looks good. It may be a little over the top for me, but it's nice. I like being able to see all the components in my system and being able to see the fruits of my labor with all the fans that I put in there. So I'm pretty happy with how this turned out, and the cooling performance, no complaints whatsoever. And having everything on the motherboard headers is great because now my motherboard's able to control the fans, turn things off as needed, do everything intelligently like it's supposed to, and yeah, looking pretty good. Alright, so if this video is helpful as always, please go ahead and click on that subscribe link if you haven't done so already. And you know the drill. Don't be a stranger. Be sure to check back soon.